Check, 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 check. Hey, am I live on YouTube? Am I live on YouTube? Did it go live without me? I guess it did. I'm glad I didn't do anything embarrassing. Okay. It did not give me the option to go live. It just went live. I don't understand it. Let's get the debate. Let's get the debate stream so you guys can hear it in the background. They're just talking to the peasants. Well, actually, they're actually not. They're talking to the people in the audience about the fact that there's 120 million peasants that are watching them right now, and so they need to behave because this is very important and hard work trying to decide between Biden and Trump. Very important and hard work trying to decide. Honestly, if it's important and hard work for you to decide between Trump and Biden, you guys have other issues. Can everybody hear me okay? And let me know if this sounds good too.
This building serves another purpose. In support of our democracy.
Turn that down for now while we're waiting for everything to start. Hello, everybody! Let me actually, you know what? I'm talking to my YouTube audience. I have not even gone live on Facebook or anything. So let me do that. Facebook and then Law and Profits. And why not Periscope on Twitter? Sure. No one else. Who cares about the other ones? All right, guys. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the show. I think everybody we're good on Facebook. We're good on YouTube. If you are seeing this right now, be sure to go to youtube.com/I'mKingGinger. That's I'mKingGinger. If you go there, and then that way, you can see kind of what's being said. I'm gonna pull up a chat. You can participate in the chat, is what I meant to say. I'm pulling up a chat now that I might be able to see in Facebook, but for sure, super chats are guaranteed to get my attention. That's all I'm saying. So, your volume seems a skosh too low. Well, I have it muted at the moment. So let's see if we can get this right.
Nearly every academic institution continues to prepare students in separate buildings, literally in silos. Yet, after spending years learning only with students from the same profession, doctors with doctors, nurses with nurses, and so on, they are suddenly expected to know how to work in teams once they get their diplomas. We knew there had to be a better way, and together we built it. When not filled with a stage and seats, this atrium gives...
They must be the wealthy donors that paid for that facility tonight. So, very well. I guarantee you, at least to some degree, those people are capitalists right there. Yeah, that's the worst flavor of Bang. That's the worst one, in case you guys are asking. That is pina colada. And that is absolutely the worst flavor. So, oh, you said my mic is too low. My mic, well, that's important information, wouldn't you think? This is why I came on early, by the way. I think, let's see, I can turn it up on here some. We'll just crank it, you know? Check, 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 check. Is the audio a little better? I mean, that's peaking pretty good. Is that better? I'm checking your chats. I'm checking in the chat, so... Fox News coverage is a few minutes ahead of this? Does that mean the debate started? Or does that mean that I'm not live? Kevin Pointer says $10. Nice beard. Thank you for the super chat, Kevin. Really appreciate it. Audio seems like we're sounding good. We're going to get loud tonight. Hopefully it doesn't peak too much, but I'd rather it peak every now and then than you guys not hear me most of the way.
Introduce Chris Wallace. Evening's debate.
Well, you know, Fox News might be ahead, but we're going to probably get really far behind today anyway because I probably plan on pausing and talking. And Chris Wallace's mic is not on. That is not me. Hey, C-SPAN, that is not me. It's not me. Is it? His audio just... Is that me? That cannot be me. It's not me? Okay, my wife says it's not me. This is Come on, C-SPAN! This is the government channel. Is it the same way on Fox News, honey? Oh no. It's the same on Fox. Oh, you know what? He's probably given the secret instructions that we're not privy to as peasants of the king. These are probably very special instructions for very special people. That's why we're specifically muted for this. Well, that explains a lot. That's also disappointing. I want the behind the scenes stuff, you know? Where's the lip readers at? Where's the lip readers at? Well, I want to hear Chris Wallace tell the audience to shut up and not get excited about stuff. Well, there's one MAGA hat in the audience. Keep America green. Ivanka. Okay. Well, that's really, really sad. Just get some B-roll shots while the audio is off. He looks like he doesn't know where he is. Or he doesn't like what's being said. Probably both. Hey! $10 super chat from Grant Sundberg. And there's the applause. That means all the top secret info is done. All the classified information. That's some pathetic clapping. It just doesn't work. Grant, if I told you that, I might give too much away. But yeah, Grant says, will this cover my first month on lore? It might do a lot more than that. You never know. Who knows? Who knows what money does on lore? We haven't really talked about that publicly yet. So, but thanks though. By the way, I'll be at the Fight Laugh Feast conference tomorrow. We're flying out tomorrow. So as soon as this is done, we're gonna pack up, go to sleep, go to the airport, and we'll be at the Fight Laugh Feast conference. Be sure to go. I would definitely be sure to go if you can. I think they closed off online registration, so. So if you haven't, well, sucks for you. I would like to be there though. I just to see what sort of stuff Chris Wallace said. But I'd also like to see what happens during the commercial breaks. That'd be fun too. Like just to have like a front row seat just so you can hear any conversations on stage. Grant, they didn't cancel Ellen. She came back this week. Unless you know something new. She came back this week. She did a monologue with a fake apology and everything. It's true. It's a commercial on Fox. Well, my clock says it's 6:03. My clock says it's 6:03, which means they're late. Somebody says, past Joe's bedtime. What do you guys think? You think Joe's going to perform well? Here's what I'll say before we get started. I actually think he's going to do pretty good. And I don't think it's because of drugs. I think just being under the pressure of the moment, I think he's going to do well. You don't get to where he is without doing well under pressure. And I think he'll do good. Unless he doesn't. And in that case, him not doing good is clearly that he's not doing good. So to be fair, I would be shocked if Joe doesn't do well. Now, I don't think he's going to do as well as Trump, unless Trump just had a really bad day. But it looks like we're about to start, so here we go. C-SPAN's sort of like getting behind the scenes a little bit.
Good evening from the Health Education Campus of Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News, and I welcome you to the first of the 2020 presidential debates between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. The Commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15-minute segments with 2-minute answers from each candidate to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns have agreed to these rules. For the record, I decided the topics and the questions in each topic. I can assure you, none of the
said there's
questions
open
have been
discussion
shared with the commission or the two candidates. This debate is being conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic, which is serving as the health security advisor to the commission for all 4 debates. As a precaution, both campaigns have agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning of tonight's debate. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, no boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly you, can focus on what the candidates have to say.
I'd never agree to that.
No
rule.
noise except right now, as we welcome the Republican nominee,
cheer.
President Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
Here we go.
How you doing, man? How are you? I'm well.
Gentlemen, a lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment.
Chris Wallace sounds really nervous to me.
An abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight: why are you right in the argument you make, and your opponent wrong?
So.
And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first. 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people. from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time, even if we did it after the election itself. I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. I really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right.
He hasn't answered the question yet,
and
though.
very few people
the question
knowingly
is
would say otherwise.
Where
and by
will
the way,
it
the Democrats,
push
they
the
wouldn't
court?
even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election,
smile
so
if I've
they
ever
were
seen
stopped.
one.
And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Trump
First of all,
nice.
thank you for doing this, and looking forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is, and that say occurs when they vote for United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already.
Oh, Joe is nervous.
The election has already
right
started.
Off the bat.
Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president, who they elect as vice president.
Okay, just stop real quick. If we stop and wait for the election's already happened. The election serves a 4-year term. What tyranny to say that that this president can't make decisions because there's an election coming up. What a tyrannical thing. Oh yeah, by the way, if you're watching this debate, I am going to stop and talk all the way through it because it's the only way I can stand to watch this sort of ridiculousness. But yeah, what tyranny to say that Trump is not allowed to do what he's constitutionally required and obligated to do because you're going to hurt people's feelings because there's an election that's close. Get out of here. That's why Trump said, hey, look, I got from November 3rd till December to do it too. And up to January 21st, I would assume too. Yeah, so good luck, Joe.
Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court. And the justice, and I have nothing, I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person. But
I just want to stop there. That's important because me and my wife were watching when Trump made the announcement. We were watching it on CNN because it was the first channel we changed to that had it on. Oh, that's the only reason. And both Wolf Blitzer and the person they were talking to were both saying how great of a pick she is. And the only thing that they had to say in response, was, well, the other guy was a great pick too, but the Republicans didn't let him get elected. So it's interesting that not even Biden right here on the stage has anything bad to say about Amy.
Written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens?
Abortion.
Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man did.
He just skipped over the word abortion. I don't know if that was a glitch in my stream, but he just skipped it and just started talking and just didn't even mention the word. And now he's talking about women's rights and other things and women's health care, but he completely skipped over the word abortion. Did you guys notice that?
And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And
he said the pre-existing conditions will be taken away. What sort of miraculous healer can take away pre-existing conditions? Only Jesus Christ, I believe, can take away people's pre-existing conditions. He is out of it. It's all right, man. We're just getting started.
So it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait.
He's on a
until
different
February.
planet right
There
now.
aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as a say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
during
election.
that period of time.
No, he's not. He's elected till the next inauguration. He's elected to the next inauguration. He's not elected until the next election. It doesn't work that way, Joe.
We have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years. And the
election's
100
already
million
started.
people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly going to socialist. You're going to socialist medicine.
We're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number
White.
one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what
that
your
is-
party has said.
that is simply
your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party
That is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine.
party
I'm so
is
glad
the
they're doing open
socialist
discussion.
now.
I am
And
the
they're
so
going to
glad.
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act?
Oh, there it is.
308,000.
There it is. Did you guys hear it? What about the people that have COVID? You can't strike down universal health care. So many people have COVID. There it is. Gary DeMar wrote an article about this, and he said the government, I think what he said, the government's new safe word is health or something like that. Like health is the new word. I'm the government, and I'm here to make you healthy. Man, they're already using COVID to push that stuff.
And military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And
this.
if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't
the
be
deal.
200. It would be 2 million people because you were very late on the.
Can I just ask one simple question? Maybe you guys in the comments can help me. But Trump is on the left, and Biden is on his right. But Biden, is there a reason Biden is not looking at Trump? He's not engaging in him. He's not giving him any sort of eye contact. It's actually, it makes it look like Biden's reading notes. Like somebody's got cards in the audience, is just holding it up for him. But he won't even look at him when he's talking.
You didn't
down
want
the
me to
draw.
ban
See?
China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which
no,
was heavily
Mr. President,
You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr. President,
much later.
Mr.
You're
President,
talking about 2 million people.
You're not gonna be able
President,
to
as
shut
the
him up.
moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the
There it
ballot
is.
as well in the court.
There it is.
And so that's also at stake right now. And so the
It's not
election
at
is
stake.
already
You don't know it's
begun.
on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is it
you
on the
said
ballot? It's not
you're-
on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And you
just be
don't
quiet
know
for a
her
minute?
view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't
don't
know her
know.
view.
Well, all right, let's talk. We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got.
That I just want to say that's a really good response from Trump. because he didn't address Roe v. Wade. He just said, look, there's nothing currently going before the court with Roe v. Wade. You don't know what's going to come before, and you don't even know her opinion on Roe v. Wade. You haven't spoken to her. You don't know anything. Nobody knows anything really about her. So that was actually, I'm sure some people online will be mad about that response, but that was actually a really good one, and it really he'd shut him up.
A lot of times. So.
And by the way, the Supreme Court isn't going to do anything about Roe v. Wade, and I think Trump is actually more right than than people would want him to say.
On health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to give good health care.
If I may ask my question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well,
I got rid of the individual mandate.
I'm going to give you an opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a big chunk of Obamacare. That is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst part of Obamacare.
Sir,
Chris, that was the worst part of Obamacare.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe. The individual mandate was the most unpopular aspect of Obamacare. I got rid of it.
I'd like you
and we will protect people with
President, I'm the moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer your question.
Go ahead.
You, in the course of
Trump
these 4 years,
isn't letting the
have never
media
come
get
up
away
with
with
a
that stuff.
comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Fine. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something, that there's nothing symbolic.
I was kind of wondering how he saved it. Good job. That was planned.
I'm cutting drug prices.
That's
I'm
good.
going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against Big Pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care. All of the things that we've done,
He has not cut
insulin.
health
I give
care.
you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people. The cost. I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water, you want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs what we're doing, prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because they pay just a tiny fraction.
As I say, this is open discussion.
No,
let
but
me
this
ask
is
you about,
big.
you'll be happy,
big stuff.
Sir, you'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the Vice President, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare. And
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
Well, if I can ask you the question, it will
Not
end.
what your party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for
Just the one thing I do like, I like how Trump and Biden are not letting Chris Wallace frame the question in a way that presumes guilt. And I think Biden is right to stop Chris Wallace. I think Trump is right to stop Chris Wallace from framing the question inappropriately. I think that's a good move on both of their parts. So that's just my thought, because these questions are framed in such a slimy snake way. It's really infuriating.
Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option, number one.
Joe, you agreed with Bernie Sanders, who's far left, on the manifesto, we call it, and that gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you saying
I'm not
you
going to
didn't
listen
agree?
to him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Somebody told Biden not to engage with Trump, and it'll tick him off. And that's exactly what Biden is doing. He's not talking to him. He's not engaging him. He's not even looking at him. He said he's not going to listen to him. For liberals, that'll work, because that's what liberals do, right? They don't engage in any sort of good conversation. I'm kind of moving in more than I'm in focus. Let me fix that. So liberals don't engage in conversation. When you talk to them on the street, when you see them in public, when they're at a rally, they don't want to talk to you. They just want to they just want to do this all the time. They just want to scream all the time, as opposed to actually engaging in conversation. So for liberals, this plays really well just to ignore Trump. But I don't know if like mainstream America, I think mainstream America wants to see Joe Biden actually engage with Trump and show that he can stand toe to toe and he's as strong of a leader. And I think this makes him look like one of these people. And I just don't think that's really gonna help him.
Not by much.
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm here standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left 2 days early. You would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to
on
do
Super
is hurt.
Tuesday. You got very lucky.
Here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to make sure, because here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just want to make sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be surprised.
You pick
You'd be surprised.
the wrong guy, the wrong night at the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders.
There we
on
go.
the
The whole
manifesto.
idea.
Let him.
Disavowing it.
There is no manifesto, number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on
Oh
a
my
plan.
goodness.
Folks,
That's absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you have
to,
any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Mr.
Medicare.
Do you have any
President.
do?
Oh my
Socialized
goodness.
medicine.
Mr.
I'll
President.
Oh
tell
my
you what,
goodness.
He is not for any help for people needing health care. Because
Bernie?
because he in fact already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two,
yeah.
there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give them better health care at a much lower price because
and by
Obamacare
the way, he doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a plan.
fixed it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't.
Obamacare
Gentlemen, you realize
is no
if you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president. Go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed, that. They shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people, okay? I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what he's
and I
known
just
for.
had a meeting with them. They said the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive.
Okay.
Premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high, and
That's
it
what his
doesn't work.
people- that's
so
what his people
we
said.
do want to get rid of it.
Chris,
we want to get rid of it.
I
and
understand
give
it, sir, but
something
I
that's
have
cheaper
to
and
give you
better.
roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care. Of
course we do.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right.
He's
I have one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should
can't
speak.
answer that question.
You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how
Are you gonna
strongly
pack
you
the
feel.
court?
Vote now.
gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you
Answer
in
the
fact
question,
let
Joe!
people know
He doesn't wanna
you're a
answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the
You wanna
question
put a
is
lot of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justices,
the
radical
question,
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is
up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Whoa.
is
On
so
All right, gentlemen, I think
this
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the
unpresidential.
court.
We have,
We're not going to give a list.
we have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure do.
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right, the second subject.
I'm just going to say right now, the people absolutely do understand. They're not dumb. And this only works if you believe a majority of people are stupid. And I think Trump is really showing that Joe is refusing. He's refusing to answer the questions. He won't acknowledge Trump is even there. He won't look at Trump. It looks really bad for him. And the fact that he won't stand firm on his positions, I don't think people like that. I don't think people like that at all.
Subject is COVID-19, which is an awfully serious subject. So let's try.
By the way, that's a pretty important question not to answer. Are you going to pack the court and put a lot of Supreme Court justices in the court? That's a very important manner. Like that question that shows what kind of tyrant you are, and how and what level you are willing to sink to destroy this nation. It's a very great question. And he should have answered.
Be serious about it. We have had more than 7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far, and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID.
Is he looking down at notes?
In addition to that, about between 750
and 1,000
people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was.
Where are those notes for? Why is he allowed to have notes?
What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do?
He just has to move his lips. He doesn't even have to say
it. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out back in March exactly what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if
just for the record, he's talking to Trump, but he's looking at the camera. It's really weird, and I'm thinking it's one of the Kennedy-Nixon moment where Kennedy had a dark color suit and Nixon had a gray suit on a black and white TV, and he blended in, and Kennedy won the debate pretty firmly just because of his clothing choice. I think the fact that he doesn't look at Trump when he's talking is really off-putting, almost like one of those half-human but not quite there CGI characters. What's that effect called? When it's just kind of like off-putting and it doesn't make sense? All he's got to do is look towards Trump when he talks. But that's really...
we would have listened to you.
You have 2 minutes, sir.
If we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have closed our country.
Wait a minute. It says 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of you Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you
done.
didn't do very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was no economic recession.
Sir, you made a
There
was no recession.
You made a point. Let him answer it.
And there was we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he shut down. The reason it's shut
That actually really upsets me when he says it's his economy that's shut down, because it's the liberal governors that are continuing to shut things down. So see, this is what I said when coronavirus just first happened and people started shutting things down. I said they're going to blame it on Trump for shutting things down, and he should have never shut anything down. He was damned if he did and damned if he didn't. Like, he didn't really have an option. He might as well take the option that at least he could take credit and say that it was a good thing in shutting down. But now they're sitting there and saying that the economy tanked because Trump shut everything down. That's a flat-out lie. And anybody watching this, any person with an elementary school education is going to get that that's just flat-out bull crap. It's bull crap.
What's wrong with you people?
down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far more people. Far more people.
And
you would have been.
And by the way,
late.
your own, his own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up. He said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't
trust
Dr.
Johnson
Fauci. Johnson, Pfizer.
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen, let me move on to questions about the future, because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing.
The level of argumentation from Joe Biden is so awful. It's so, it's not an intelligent conversation. It's not smart. It's not coherent. And I hope that most people see that. But the problem is liberalism has made people so stupid through their government education that they're going to think that this guy's making consistent arguments. Like Trump is going to make this vaccine. Like Trump is going to actually inject weird things into the vaccine. Which, by the way, it's good to see Joe be an anti-vaxxer. That's what Trump should do. Trump should call Joe an anti-vaxxer.
On the future, exactly first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives.
That's exactly right.
It is a very
He's
political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great modern.
The truth is, Trump should just get rid of the FDA. Just eliminate the FDA right off the bat. Just get rid of it, and then the vaccine would come out a lot faster. Not that I'm in favor of vaccines or that the government should mandate them. I'm just saying, if you got rid of the FDA, a lot of drugs would make it to market a lot faster and cheaper than having to go through the awful system that is the FDA. So just that's what Trump should do. Trump should just wipe the FDA, clear it.
Johnson & Johnson and others, they can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call them left, I don't know what I call them.
So you're suggesting that the head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slaoui?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
he said it's a possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also be after
when
that.
It's generally available.
Well, we're going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day.
Scary.
They're going to be delivering.
This is the same man
it's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the same man.
That was said sarcastically, and you know that. That was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Grant, you said you bought your mask American-made. Shame on you for buying a mask at all, man. Shame on you for buying a mask at all.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up the...
Remind me at the end, I have a mask story today to tell you, but we'll just get through that.
I want to pick up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear? No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists. But you're saying
Everybody
you can't,
knows.
or Senator Harris is saying you can't trust the scientists.
No, you can trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust.
She said the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not. They're the people. And by the way,
I spoke to the scientists that are in charge.
By the way,
they will have.
It's amazing. Real quick, that's an amazing statement from Biden to say that there are people in the United States that's work does not depend on the government. That was a pretty conservative free market thing for Joe Biden to say.
The vaccine very
quick little free market joke there.
But you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID. He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market, one of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died, and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years you've done nothing.
Let's have this debate.
And if you would have had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
if you would have had the charge of what I was put through. I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
See,
and
We're going to get to the economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast.
Okay. When
it
it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I'd know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to provide them plastic.
Tell that to Nancy Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to
That's a great point.
And Schumer,
by the way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with the Senate, and he sits on his golf course, and literally think about it.
You probably play more than I do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact?
Well, he wants to shut down this country, and I want to keep it open. And we did a great thing by shutting it down. Wait a minute, Joe. Let me shut you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November 3rd.
I want to move on to another subject.
It's a political
subject.
By the way, this is just a point. I don't know if you could see it. You probably can't see it because I kind of have a fade on the video. Let me see if I can fix this because this is interesting. I just noticed that. Let's see. Filters. Yeah. Okay. See. Okay. So you can see the color difference here. They have. They have what appears to be a different white balance on Trump than they do on Biden. So, look at this with me for a second. So Trump's color is more yellow than Biden's color. So Biden has this really nice blue color, but Trump has, it's like they're trying to make him more orange skin. I don't know. I just noticed that. I think that's I don't know. That seems.
But those states are not doing well that are shut down right now.
Respond to that.
President Trump, you have begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
the efficacy of masks? You have to understand, if you look, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to. But I wear masks when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say,
Vice President Biden. Go ahead, sir.
That's good.
The way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also said the opposite. They've also said
no serious person said the opposite.
Look at Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the opposite.
He did not say the opposite.
We got a little bit more than a minute left in this segment.
Masks are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks are good.
He sure did.
I'm okay with masks.
I want to ask you about one last subject because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people.
Outside,
yes, sir. Agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with...
Because nobody will show up.
People with...
What's true? Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right. In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why you not? You go first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
but are you not worried about it spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 25, 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you not worried about
we
the
have
disease
a lot of
issues,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours' notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
sir.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative
cheek
effect.
to jowl. No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect. And we've had 35, 40,000 people at these rallies.
Just quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraged them not to.
All right.
It's interesting to me. Joe said that he wouldn't have shut down the economy, and he blamed Trump for shutting down the economy. Now he's blaming Trump for having 45,000 people outside of his rallies. That's just inconsistent. Either he should have shut down the economy because people are going to die, and he shouldn't have had the people out at the rallies. Or he shouldn't have shut down the economy, and then it's okay for people to be at the rallies because no one's going to die. It's simple.
And he's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the
economy?
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now. Instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening in some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce.
It is
Look
prison.
at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion.
Oh, no, not the billionaires making money.
proposal, and he only focused on the market.
How terrible.
But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no, sir, it's just
wrong statement.
Yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all...
Well, just to be clear, if you're dying, you're definitely going to lose your job. 100% guarantee.
Try to make it. And the idea that
Nothing Trump can do about that, by the way. If you're dying, you're going to lose your job.
he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools. Why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right. Your time is up, sir. Well, we're going to get to...
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives. They'll be careful, but they want their schools open.
Okay.
I'm the one that brought back football.
That's interesting. Did you guys catch that? People want everything open. They want to get back to their lives, right? Freedom. They want to be safe. Safety. Freedom and safety. That's the choices. Freedom and safety is very clear. It's a very, very powerful moment right there for people who are paying attention.
By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And
all right,
people of Ohio are very proud of me. And you know how I found out? When he took
gentlemen,
a phony
we're going to
ad.
get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid $38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your
1
tax
year.
returns.
I went. You'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under-leveraged because the assets are extremely good, and I built
Sir,
a great
I'm asking
company.
you a specific question, which is...
let me tell you...
I understand all of that. I understand all of that. No, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
How is this a question? How is this a question directed just at Trump? This isn't a question that Biden can answer. It's just at Trump. I don't like those questions.
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars,
So
yes.
not $750?
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it. You'll get to see it. But let me just tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him...
By the way, Trump should just own it and be like, yeah, I have a good accountant. Don't be mad that you don't have an accountant that's as good as mine. He should just own it. That's the way to win. Taxation, just go taxation and stuff route. And I'm going to make it so that nobody pays more than $750 in income taxes. That's what he should do. He should just own it.
Put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher on the money a school teacher makes is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code.
Yeah.
And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate...
That's why it's a tax code and a tax law.
The Trump tax cuts. And we're going to eliminate those tax cuts. And make sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help.
Yeah, we're going to eliminate tax cuts.
People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you weren't president. Because you weren't president screwing things up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
worst
president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing, including fixing the broken military that you gave me, including taking care of your vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be elected president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make this federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
But respectfully, sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it before when you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was your tax proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed like it's never boomed.
The economy is busted.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for American people.
But let me.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slow.
Chris Wallace is not supposed to attack Trump. It's not. I don't like it. Just ask
recovery
questions.
Economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty of companies that are already here, they'll leave for other places. They will leave, and you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look, we inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
booming.
Blew it.
He blew it.
It wasn't booming. It was the weakest
I just
recovery
get bored.
since
Wait. Is
economy.
it fair to say he blew it when, in
When
fact,
COVID
when there was record low unemployment before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
That's not true at all.
Number one.
Chris, wait.
Number two.
Chris,
number three.
They said it would take. No, you were number two.
No.
Chris, they said it would
This
take a
guy,
miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of
not
my
regret-
standard fare.
I'm the guy that
He
brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
manufacturing.
industry.
All right, let him.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going
Ohio
after
had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having
And
that.
they didn't come
That
in.
is true.
Mr. Vice
It's
President.
true.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch, down
All right, gentlemen,
18%. China ate your lunch, Joe. And no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars, to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while we're
not
at it,
true.
why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
That's
What
not
did he
true.
do to deserve it?
That
What
is-
did he do
Here we
with
go.
this
None
to
of that
deserve $183,000?
None
You've
of
asked
that
your
is
question,
true.
let him answer.
None of that is true.
Oh, really?
It's
He didn't
totally,
get
But no,
$3.5
hey,
million?
Mr. President,
It's
Mr.
totally-
President, please.
totally
ask a question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he
let's
didn't
talk-
get $3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5 million.
President,
It is not true.
Oh, really?
Mr.
Oh.
President,
But,
it's an open discussion, please.
Now-
It's a fact.
Well,
It
you
is
have
not.
raised an issue. Let the
It's been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report.
$183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
President,
no job.
My son did nothing wrong at
man.
Burisma.
I think he
and
did.
Mr.
the only
President,
guy that
let
did
him
something-
answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
who?
And
The media?
By everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone
What
has
did he just
discredited
say?
it. Matter of fact, even the people
President,
who
please stop.
testified under oath.
So let
under
me ask-
oath, his position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
who?
And
The media?
By everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank, by
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited.
'Cause you're
matter
embarrassed.
Matter of fact, even the people
President,
who
please stop.
testified under oath.
So let me
under
ask you
oath,
this,
under-
Joe.
under
No,
oath.
go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to
Even the
you.
people under,
He got $3.5 million from
testified-
Moscow.
He testified under oath, and his administration said, "I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I
really?
did it
I'd like to
honorably."
know who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list
I'll
of the
fire
people who
them.
testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a
Some
good
because
job.
some people don't do a
well,
good
here's
job.
The,
With you,
Go
they
ahead.
say-
You get
here's the
wait a
deal.
minute. You get the final word, Mr.
well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this.
Hey,
this
let me just
person.
say,
No. I'm Mr. President. I'm
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
That is simply.
Why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million
It
from
did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to
Biden
talk
doesn't
about
want to be on this
families
subject.
and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already.
family,
No, let him go.
my
Let-
family
already
lost
wrote-
a fortune by
Okay.
coming down and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's such a.
they're right
That's
here.
it, Mr.
That's
President.
such
Every
a great.
single one of them lost
This
a
is not
fortune
about
President.
my
coming and
family or
helping
his
us with
family. It's
government.
about your family,
They
the
didn't
American
collect
people.
$3.5 million
He
for
doesn't.
nothing.
That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about.
you
here.
should
All right,
Not
that's the end of the
Shouldn't have
segment.
taken the money.
We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Well,
Vice
it's a very-
President,
but Chris,
no,
can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No,
That's
he
a good
stood
thing.
up.
No,
he stood up,
the answer to
and
the
he
question is no.
threatened Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you don't
that
get rid of
is
the trust.
absolutely
You know what, you're- wait,
not
stop.
You're on
true.
tape doing it.
You're going to
You're on
have
tape.
True.
Gentlemen,
Is-
I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice,
he's
but
on
it seems
tape.
to be, why shouldn't I be different than the two of you? So here's the
That's a
deal.
good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than he
all right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than, sir, less
does
than,
plenty.
no, less than you have. Let's please continue on.
Chris Wallace is taking
The
me
issue
off.
of race. Vice President Biden, you say
He's
that
terrible.
President
They should
Trump's
fire him from
response
Fox News, but they
to the
probably won't.
violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people looked like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president has ever said anything like that.
It is whose
now, second point I'd make is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus.
Oh, no,
and if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans.
He should do 1 in 3 on abortion. Trump should do that.
Is a savior of African Americans? This man cares at all? This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
So,
President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with racism?
he did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that, because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day, and they put up their hands, and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right.
That was a really good moment for Trump, by the way. I think that was probably one of his most powerful moments in the whole debate.
To return to the question of race, Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education, in work.
You can't even say it, Joe.
In law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it. But we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
He's having to tell it to his people.
Peaceful protest. When they run through the middle of a town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place, and you say peaceful protest.
President Trump,
No, it's
I'm not
not,
asking.
but you say it is.
President Trump, I'd like to continue with the issue of race.
please.
I promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody else. And he would know.
What is radical about racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and, frankly, very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
I think Trump could have been more clear there because initially he said critical race theory, but then he got rid of critical race theory and said, why is it wrong to end racial sensitivity training? Why did you end racial sensitivity training? He kind of flipped it there, and Trump should have been a little bit more clear in explaining what critical race theory is and why it's bad. So I don't know if that wasn't a good moment for Trump.
Nobody's doing.
I mean, the people like Eddie Robles, he knows exactly what critical race theory is, and he can understand what Trump is talking about there. But a majority of people do not know what critical race theory is, or even the dangers of racial sensitivity training from an American standpoint and how it destroys a nation. So I think this is going to be a good one for Biden.
That he's the racist.
You just don't know.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about this than he does.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important that people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people.
You're right, John.
They look down their nose on people like
I don't think Trump
Irish
can
Catholics
articulate
like me and
critical
grew
race
up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson, you go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but
Lord.
The reason is that
ridiculous.
the Democrats that run these cities
ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you
crime.
in favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow it.
Are you in favor of law and order? Go
yes,
ahead,
I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You asked a
Everybody's in favor
question,
of
let him finish.
Law and order.
Law and order.
Let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. Okay. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 17%, 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more in ours.
All right, we're now. Mr. President, you're going to. Mr. President,
every record in the
Mr.
book.
President, you're going to be very happy because we're now going to talk about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's exactly my question. There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a
sin
party
issue.
You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died, shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. Crime. It is crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, our suburbs would be gone. By the way, our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've never seen.
He would know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
Go ahead. Wait a minute.
I was raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles on racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means.
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
Look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police offices. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding in his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what they're talking about, Chris. That's not what they're talking about. He's talking about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law support.
Look,
he has no law enforcement support.
That's not true.
Almost nothing.
Look.
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go ahead.
Look,
think. We have time.
We don't have time to do anything.
No, think
All right.
about it.
Name one law enforcement group that came out and supported.
Gentlemen, I think I'm going to take back the moderator's role,
and
I want to get to another subject.
Chris Wallace always jumps in when Biden's on the ropes. It drives me nuts. That was a great moment for Trump, and Biden jumps in.
Which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree, you talk about peaceful protests, many of those turned into riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it
but
should
you've
be
never called for the people, the leader.
That.
Excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to bring in the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really?
Really? Here's the thing.
I sent in the U.S. Marshals to get the killer of the young man in the middle of the street. They shot him, and for 3 days,
President Trump,
Portland wouldn't do anything. I had to send in the U.S. Marshals. They took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, his own former spokesperson said, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that. And so here's the
all right.
But here's the point.
Go ahead,
the point
sir.
is that that's what he is, keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly, and every single solitary time.
Okay, and to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly criticized.
I have to answer his statement.
No, you have
his
repeatedly.
Statement. Wait,
you have
just
no. You've been talking back
and forth.
He made a
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to
end it. This is terrible.
I would love to end it.
If you want to switch seats.
We would very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd send in the National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay.
But they don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
willing to do
specifically
that, but
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacists. And
Trump could have been more clear about white supremacists.
You got it.
Not militia.
The problem is, I would have asked, how do you define white supremacist group? But you can't do that in 2 minutes. But that's what Trump should have done. Well, define white supremacy, and I'll do it.
It's an idea.
FBI. His FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well, then you know what?
No, we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next. We're moving.
When a bat hits you over the head, that's not an idea.
Everybody
Antifa
in your
is
administration
bad.
tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas.
Antifa is a dangerous,
all right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump and Biden records.
They'll overthrow you.
When a president, I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the Almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been
an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? Because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy.
I bet you, I wonder if Obama left those judges for Hillary Clinton to fill. I bet you that's why he did it.
I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president. You can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term. 300 judges. It's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused a recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head-to-head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got $3.5 million.
And by the way, my son...
Wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word. Can you add
no, I'm not asking. That was a rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah, yes, you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking about Hunter? Are you talking about Hunter?
I'm talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He wasn't dishonorably.
Cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you became vice president, he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
that is simply
and various
not
other places.
True.
He bringing up Bo was not a good move for Biden because Trump knows that he can't go after Bo, and he just walked right in. He didn't even say who he was talking about. He didn't even say he was talking about it. He was talking about his son and all these accomplishments his son made without even mentioning it was Bo's name. He walked right into that. Bad.
Fortune.
My son.
And he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why was he given tens of millions of dollars?
But he wasn't given tens of millions of dollars. That is totally discredited.
We've already been
totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make a judgment call here.
Gets $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow.
Let's talk about not true.
Gentlemen,
that report is totally discredited. Mitt Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
You know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change? And what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management. Got to have cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very exciting.
You believe
for a lot of people.
that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of this planet?
I think a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls.
You
know, in Europe, they live their forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have...
My wife is from California, and she tells me how the environmentalists refuse to let the people there do controlled burns because it's hurting the environment and you're going to kill some squirrels or whatever. And that's why the forest is burning, because I guess my wife says that there used to be like the Native Americans that were in California, they used to just do regular burns all the time because they knew that's how you would stop massive fires. And they don't do that in California because of the crazy radical environmentalists. So that's why you have all these fires in California. But anyway.
Trees.
It'll take care of itself. It takes care of itself.
That are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground. But, sir, that's burning down because of a lack of management.
But, sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars and trucks?
Well, not really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by $3,500.
In the case of California, they've simply ignored
No, but you would take a lot of cars
roadmap.
off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And I'm okay with electric cars, too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice President.
There's a discussion that Trump is trying to have with people about how the free market is better and that the government regulations are making things worse. But he's talking as if it's assumed and people understand what he's saying. And I think a vast majority of people, I mean, there's a lot of people, especially business owners and stuff, that's going to know exactly what he's saying. But there's a lot of people who don't understand these basic free market principles. And I think it'd be awesome if Trump just came out and said, look, this is how the free market works. Let me take you on a class on free market economics. And you bring in Sol, and you bring in Walter Williams, you bring in all these people, and you sit them down with the president, and you film the whole thing, and you live stream it, and you explain free market economics, how government regulations harm black communities. And Trump would be great for that because he's a businessman and he's respected in the black community as a businessman. He is. It's true. So maybe having that conversation. So I volunteer myself. I will film it, Mr. President. I will come to the White House. I'll even wear a suit. I'll shave my beard if you want. I'll come there and we'll film you, Thomas Sowell, and Walter Williams, and we'll talk about free market economics, why it's better, and how it helps our society. We'll get it done in a week. And maybe 2, depending on how long you take to get back to me. We'll get it done. I said a week, but the Fight Laugh Feast conference is coming up. So maybe not a week, 2 weeks. But if you call me, I might be able to make some adjustments to my schedule, Mr. President. We'll film you, Thomas Sowell, Walter Williams, sitting down, talking about free market economics. We'll even live stream the whole darn thing. It'll be great. It'll be uninterrupted. That's what you should do, because that'll destroy the Democratic Party if you did that. Just straight Ronald Reagan style. Just explain this and bring it out.
President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations in all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage. by having a new infrastructure that, in fact, is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that
farts.
You don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now.
That's farts. Just know Joe Biden wants to regulate your farts. That's exactly what he said. Hey, look, the government is telling you. You can't emit more farts.
Now, this is the guy who says that, well, the fact that it's all true. And here's the deal.
He's talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down buildings
and
rebuild the building.
No,
it's the dumbest, most ridiculous. Where airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out, where they want to take out the cows too. That's not true either, right? This is a $100 trillion.
Look,
that's more money than our country could make in 100 years if we're
not
going.
The case.
All right, let me because I actually wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs. Good paying.
Look, guys, I really don't care about the environment stuff. I think free market is the way to go. If you need an example on the free market is the way to go, all you got to do is look to what Elon Musk is doing. He is convinced of global warming, but he's trying, at least, I know he does receive a lot of government subsidies, but he's actually using the free market in a way to take care of the environment. So as a Christian, I believe that we should take care of the environment. We're called to beautify the world. And part of that is taking care of the environment and not being crazy with it. I think any reasonable Christian would agree with that. The question is, how do you do it? You don't do it by regulating businesses and making things more expensive. You do that by creating a free market that makes electrical cars sexy. Literally, S3XY. Literally making electric cars sexy. And then that gets people to want electric cars. It creates a demand for batteries, as Elon Musk showed on Battery Day. The demand for batteries is so high. So now we need more environmentally friendly way to make these batteries at a cheaper cost to be able to provide all the batteries that we need to power the United States fleet. All that is being done through free market, through brilliance and engineering. That's how it's happening. So that's how you fix the free market. And I don't really want to. I don't care about any other of this stuff. So let me just skip forward. How will your climate change plan impact the economy? I just don't care. We know how it'll affect. That's the next question. I'm going through the thumbnails and getting through these questions and it froze on me. Why did it do that?
And about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
The Green New Deal and the idea of what your environmental changes will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
It won't.
Says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two.
Absentee ballot is not a mail-in ballot. There's a big difference there, by the way.
We're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change? You're going to get 4 more years of these lies.
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it, too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting. You're asking. They send it back. You send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that.
Sir,
all run by Democrats.
2 minutes is 2 minutes.
All run by Democrats. It's
President Trump,
it's a rigged election.
You're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter, of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them. We don't like them. We don't like them.
But what are you going to do about it if there are millions of ballots going out right now?
What you do is you go and vote. You do a solicited ballot, and that's okay, or you go and vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people
you go and vote. You go and vote
but
like
what I'm
they
saying is, what are you
they
gonna do
used
about
to
the
in
fact
the
that
old.
millions of people?
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country.
There is no.
This is not.
There is no.
This is
evidence
not going
of
to
that.
end well.
There is
Okay.
no
This
evidence
is
of that.
not going
Vice
to
President
end well.
Biden-
5 states
fact,
have had
go ahead,
mail-in
sir.
ballots for the last decade or more.
You guys are wondering what I'm doing. I actually, let me see if I can share this with you guys, because I still think it's kind of interesting. If I share, okay, yeah, let's share this, and then we'll just bring this me down here in the corner for a second. So this is, I set up this adjustment layer, as you can see, over Trump, right? So there's definitely a sort of so this is what it looks like before. I don't know if the compression through YouTube is you're going to be able to see this, but if I let's reset it. So let's reset the color. So this is how this is how the screen looks. You can tell by the blues here. Maybe if I zoom in some. They're different colors. So this is, his is more yellow. You can see this in his shirt. Now watch here. Watch right here. Hopefully, yeah, okay. Yeah, watch. So I'm going to white balance his shirt. Watch it jump to the blue. Ready? You see that? Let me see if I can zoom in on that. Just, whoa, wrong one. That was not right. Go back. Here we go. Okay. See if I can. I was trying to zoom in on this a little bit more so you can see. I don't think it's going to let me zoom in on it. Here we go. All right. So that is him white balanced. And you can see it make the color a little bit more blue. There's obviously a difference between the yellow in his shirt and, well, let's go back. So you reset. Reset. Oh, there we go. There we go. That's why it wasn't working. Okay, watch this. You'll notice the difference very quickly. Why is it not letting me? It's not letting me work. Okay, here we go. All right, let's see if this works. So watch this blue right here. We're gonna white balance for his shirt. There we go. See that difference? See that difference there? It's way more matched. Way more matched. So what they're doing is they're filming Trump with a much more yellow hue than normal. So there it is. More white. So see if you, I don't know if that's picking up well with the compression, but if we, let's just black out the exposure real quick and then bring it back over. Okay, so now the adjustment layer is covering him. Ooh, too bright. And now if we find his yellow, it does move a little bit, but not as much. And you can tell it's a lot cooler than his yellow is. So I don't know. It's very subtle. It's something that might be hard to notice, but if you do video production, you'll notice it pretty well. And it might seem like it's a bunch of garbage right now, because I'm just kind of doing this on the fly. But I don't know. There's definitely a difference. Yeah, see, because I don't have the layers lined up, but there's definitely a difference and the white balance here in comparison. So see, there's very subtle blue there. But when you bring it over to Trump, and then you reset it, and then you go to him, there's a massive difference. And now they look like their shirts are the same color, see? And I didn't even do that much. So yeah. So anyways, yeah, now they look like their shirts are the same color. There's definitely a color difference there. It's subtle. I know. Maybe it seems like I'm crazy, but anyways, I thought I'd. People say they can't see a difference, but it's definitely there. Maybe I'll do something a little bit more in depth later, but it was just really bothering me. You can really see it there. There's all these compression things that happen, but anyway, I don't want to be charged of slander. That's just my theory. I'm hypothesizing about. Anyways, guys, I'm bored to death of this debate. If you can't tell, thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm tired. We actually have a flight tomorrow. I'd stay through, but we have a flight tomorrow to get to the Fight Laugh Feast conference. So thanks again, everybody, for watching. Thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys doing it. I'll do every presidential debate. Some people ask about the vice presidential debates. If I'm not busy with lore, that was Chocolate Knox calling me, knowing good and well I'm live streaming right now. But anyways, you guys have. He's calling me again. Maybe he does know. Hold on. What's up, man? I'm live streaming right now. You're right on the. I'll call you back. All right, bye. So, anyways, guys. Anyway, I'm wrapping it up. Anyway, I thought he wanted to be on the show. He called twice. So, anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being a part of the live stream. Really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody that sent a super chat. I'll see you at the Fight Laugh Feast conference tomorrow, right? Tomorrow. Well, Thursday. But maybe I'll see some of you guys Wednesday night. Who knows? Who knows what's going on? I think it's a party every night at the Fight Laugh. Well, there's a feast every night. So see you guys in Nashville. For everybody else, I'll see you around. Thank you guys for everything. Thank you for a great day of sharing lore in my video. Really appreciate that. All right, guys. Thanks.